Well, ladies and gentle spoons, or ladies and gentlemen if you prefer English, this is another Shoutcast game of Planetary Annihilation, straight for you guys. Hopefully I'll get a three-way free-for-all right here. With any luck. I mean, the past few times I tried to record, someone's disconnected. I mean, the last time I recorded, everybody disconnected, so it was just a standoff between two idle players. But that's neither here nor there. Let's focus on what we have now. We're just waiting for the map to load up, and we'll be right with you. And here we are. It looks like we have a rather mountainous, almost glacial map, in fact. So let's go ahead and pick a spawn, because we can. Let's do that now. And I will be deleting my commander the moment we get in, so I can shout-the-cast this for you. Shout-the-cast this for you. Ugh, that made no sense. Already getting tongue-tied. It's a good sign. It's a good start. Just going to wait for everyone to be ready, and there we go. Let's delete the commander. I did press delete. There we go. And you heard the sound alert there of, oh, your commander's under attack, except he wasn't under attack, he exploded! Right, so we have three-way, we have Swap Messiah here in brown, starting with energy. We have Flared Newt in purple, I'm yet to find their spawn over here. Not too far from Swap Messiah, actually. Let me just turn down the music volume here, that's quite loud. To about 50. That's incredibly loud. Right, so Flared Newt is going 2 metal and an energy to begin with. And 400 babies. Where are you? There you are, over here. Going for 4 metal opening. It's going to be an interesting opening. I think I heard recently that the optimal is 3 metal, 1 energy. Although I prefer to go with 2 metal, 2 energy. So Swap Messiah is going straight off with a vehicle factory, maybe considering an ant rush in the long run. We'll have to see what happens there. That'll be interesting. I mean, it is mostly a land-based map, so we'll either see land units or air units. I highly doubt naval will be employed here because, well, the ocean is a long way away from everyone's bases. And I'm sorry, I'm just going to take a second to look at this moon because it looks beautiful. There we go. So that's the moon done. Back to the planet. And back to the metal. So we've got the 4 metal here and the 2 energy from 400 babies. Back to Swap Messiah. We have 4 metal and energy and a factory there, building out fabricators and continuing with the energy. That's a good economic opening, although I mean it's a more turtling opening rather than an aggressive one, but we'll see what happens here. Flared Newt is using fabricators to speed up production of economy, which is good, although they have opened with a bot factory, so maybe we'll see some sort of smaller raiding parties being employed here. We'll just have to see that in longer distance. We do have some skitters coming out from the vehicle factory of Swap Messiah, getting some intel going already, which is always a good sign. And we also have a vehicle factory being produced on part of 400 babies. So that'll all be interesting. I think we've got similar openings, just at different rates here. So it'll, as I say, it's still reasonably level pegging. I mean, all sort of changes when you start building extra factories and what your unit compositions are going to be. We already have some spinners as a sort of early anti-air defense, which is good. We even have an ant being produced here by Swap Messiah, which is some also good land-based defense. 400 babies going for a second vehicle factory. So obviously we'll see a lot of ants coming out here, maybe some spinner composition as well, depending on whether Swap Messiah really uses their air factory to produce a larger air force, or whether that's more for scouting and intel purposes and defense purposes rather than producing bumblebees and bombers. Flared Newt already going for an advanced bot factory. This is quite an interesting build. I haven't seen this one yet, although I am still early days in terms of shoutcasting. The economy, this is what I sort of recommend, sort of while you get one fabricator sort of building up your factories and things, maybe your other ones just constantly going with economy. Just a word of warning to everyone, this sort of build won't be available permanently, because you do have these metal deposits which are going to need to be used so you won't be able to just sort of build these metal extractors everywhere. Other than that, we're starting to see some spinners being produced here. which ought to make things a little bit interesting in terms of anti-air. Again, not a great deal of air intel going around, apart from Swap Messiah, who actually has some air forces, and even a Firefly now, who can now go around and get intel on spawn locations of the other players. Small sort of raiding party, scouting party if you will, here with 2 skitters, a spinner and an ant. And if that's a spinner, what's this one called? Or is that called a spinner as well? Oh, they're both called spinners. Okay, just bot and vehicle equivalents. Fair enough. Not sure whether that's a glitch or whether that's legit. Hold up. Something just got shot over here, or was that just something moving? I think that was just something moving. Never mind. I'm not sure though. We're probably going to get intel on the spawn location of 400 babies now, who is starting to get a stronger build. We've got the 2 land factories producing ants constantly, which is good. We have constant econ buildings being produced and even some laser defences, which is also a good sign because, well, if you have these sort of raiding parties coming in, those laser defences are going to be almost invaluable. Whether they'll be produced by the time that these actually get over there is another question entirely, although by the look of it, because they seem to be rebooping there, that should be done in good time without worry. Up here we do have a fabricator maybe producing a second base or even a sort of mini enclave elsewhere. Flednute almost finished their advanced bot factory, which will be interesting to see what sort of offensive unit compositions we'll see from Flednute. We're starting even to see some scampers coming out of the T1 bot factory, so maybe some sort of fast raids, just to say hi, I am here and I'm attacking you sort of raids. We even have some air factories coming out, so sort of the land and air compositions seem to be employed by all teams so far, especially, well, and even 400 babies now as well, who's just got the factory going up. I'm going to go out on a limb here and assume, actually no, the econ from Flednute seems to have repaired itself. It seemed before as though the air factory was being produced at a very slow rate, so I was worried as to whether the econ is actually managing to keep up. That's probably because the advanced bot factory is putting a strain on that, on the economy build-up and maintenance. Other than that, we do have an advanced vehicle factory almost produced here on the part of Swap Messiah. So we'll probably see some, wow, okay, straight off with some shellers, so we've got some artillery there, and even some bumblebees coming out as well, so maybe we will see some offensive going from there. And we even have an attack going on over here, while this point defense for some reason is attacking the air. I'm not sure whether Swap Messiah has done that intentionally, but with your point defenses, they will attack whatever they get to attack first. And there we go, it even manages to hold off against that raiding party, so that is, as I said, that was an invaluable early defense right there from 400 babies, which is good, and it also allows these ants to continue to build up in number. Then we have the advanced air factory here, so maybe we'll see some hornets being produced there, possibly for commander sniping, although I hope that doesn't take place because that is kind of an annoying strategy that is viable at this point in the alpha. Some advanced fabricators there, so we'll start to see some advanced other buildings going up, maybe some better econ. Flednute probably has the strongest econ here. Look at all of these metal and energy. And as I've said in my other casts, your econ pretty much dictates how good your army can be. Although at this point Flednute hasn't really got all that much of an army. I mean, if you put bots against ants, I believe ants do have the advantage, because bots are sort of weaker in terms of health and sort of vitality, etc. But again, bumblebees will escort those apparently, and we'll continue to see scampers being produced from that factory, which is all good, so that army is just going to sort of continue to gradually build up. And as I said here, we'll get some T2 econ building, so that'll really help their energy and enable them to get a better army themselves. Because Swap Messiah now does know where the spawn location of 400 babies are, they can start to take measures to counter any ground defensives, such as can be seen by this artillery installation, which currently has no one building it. Not sure whether that's intentional or what's going on, but we don't actually have anyone building that pelter or the advanced air factory, which, as I said, was it, and for some reason that has just been removed as well. I'm not sure whether that was intentional, or maybe they didn't have the economy to handle it, and that's why everything's focusing on this T2 economy right now. T2 metal fab. And wow, okay, so we do have some scouting going on, so now even 400 Babies knows where Swamp Messiah is spawned. Flared Newt continuing to produce up with econ and starting to get some storage there, which is all good, just in case their econ does go negative, and even getting a second advanced bot factory. So we'll start, as we can see here, to get some stompers being produced. We get more bumblebees and hummingbirds to escort those. And it appears, wow, okay, so we have lots of reasonable raiding going on around here. But I believe Flared Newt now does know where Swamp Messiah is spawned, and Swamp Messiah can almost probably guess where Flared Newt is spawned at this point. So everyone knows where everyone is. This is good. We do have quite a sizable army of ants and spinners over here. Although, if those take an attack now, they will probably do a substantial amount of damage to Swamp Messiah. I mean, if I'm honest, at this point Swamp Messiah really could do with some more metal and energy production, possibly tier 1 rather than trying to rush to tier 2. Because if you can't build T2 in any reasonable length of time, just keep up with T1. I mean, T1 is better than nothing, you know. So, and as the makers have been trying to say with Planetary Annihilation, they want to make units viable throughout the tech tiers. That was one of the niggling concerns with Supreme Commander, the original one, because, you know, once you got onto Tech 3, there was no need for Tech 1 and they almost became redundant and obsolete, so they'd almost become sort of suicide lols as they walked into the enemy base. Whereas in these, you know, you have different types of units, not just more powerful additions of the original unit. For instance, you know, in the vehicles you get long-range artillery and a much better tank, whereas in the tier 1 you just have a tank and some anti-air, which you don't get in your tier 2, although they might add in more units yet. I'm not sure about that. Again, lots of factories here going to produce lots of units simultaneously, which is good, especially with an econ which looks like it can support it. I mean, they are only ants, they're not particularly taxing on the economy. More base defense here to try and counter anything Swamp Messiah might throw, and a reasonably large army here, especially tier 2 things starting to be produced. In fact, we do have a stomper using that long range to take out these ants before they get to the thing. The bumblebees taking those out, but getting taken out themselves by being a little bit over-explorative, over-curious, I guess you could say. And yep, that slammer completely, well, slamming the remaining sheller that decided to waddle a little bit too far away from everything else. I mean, really, rather than sort of sending in one long-range artillery unit at a time, you really want to be thinking, okay, let's regroup armies, let's rebuild and get everything back together and see what we can do with those. Other than that, we still have this reasonably large, comparatively, army of ants just about to move over to Swamp Messiah's base, who doesn't have any defense on their western front right now because, well, I fear for their economy, and especially with these buildings here, they're just not being produced. Ah, there we go. Speak of the devil. That'll be... which one of these two is that helping produce? I can't quite tell from the building. I'm going to assume that is your artillery that he's aiding there in production. But is it too little too late, as you have it's even sniped out before it can finish. So this ant army here is really going to pack a punch. And this is a really harsh position for Swamp Messiah to be in. He's going to be playing piggy in the middle between Flared Newt and 400 Babies at this point. Can they coordinate an attack? Whether this is pure luck or whether this is coordinated, this is beautiful. We have all of these T1 bots, scampers and stompers and everything just walking in here. Nothing can really stop it at this point because Swamp Messiah doesn't actually have a huge amount of units, and 400 Babies even coming in at this side. This is unbelievably misfortunate for Swamp Messiah. Unfortunate rather, not misfortunate. Oh, and there goes everything almost. So it looks as though it is going to be a 1 versus 1 and 400 Babies versus Flared Newt at this point, although I do believe vehicles have got greater ability than bots, so it might be time for Flared Newt to retreat and regather forces to try and take out the army of ants and spinners that we do have here, because that ant rush is powerful. So I think we have almost seen the end of Swamp Messiah. In fact, we will have seen the end of Swamp Messiah in 3, 2, 1 and boom! And all of the armies go goodbye as well. That was somewhat interesting. I'm just going to quickly take a blip in the recording. There we go, just to make sure it's actually saved. And we even have a skitter going over just to make sure that they know where Flared Newt is. And as much as, you know, that was really unfair on Swamp Messiah to be pitched between these two players, you know, it's going to be interesting to see what happens now, especially with the fact that we do have 4 advanced bot factories from Flared Newt all going to be producing simultaneously because they have the econ that can support it. I mean, this is really important, having this econ that can support large scale mass production. Without the mass production, you can't really do a huge amount. And over here again, all of these tier 1 factories, you probably want to be moving on to tier 2 now, 400 babies, because tier 2 bots are a very good match for ants, without a shadow of a doubt. Although I have to say, the eastern defensive front of 400 babies is a lot more substantial than that of Flared Newt, who simply just has a standing army at this point in time. In fact, if 400 babies decided to do a flanking maneuver and come down to the South Pole and then swerve back up, as these scouts are probably going to find, they could probably do a huge amount of damage to an undefended econ patch, econ field as it were. So we'll have to see what they decide to do in the coming minutes of this game. I suspect that once they have a critical mass of ants, they will decide, yep, now is the time to go. And as soon as the pathfinding decides to actually sort of kick in, rather than these ants just going around in a circle, which is curious at best. Oh, here we go, we are moving out. Maybe it looks as though we might be just going for a all-out frontal assault on Flared Newt here from 400 babies. We'll have to see. Flared Newt does have a lot now of slammers and stompers. So those will be incredibly powerful against ants. Something else just did come over and attack. I apologise for missing that. Oh, I think it's Skitters getting a little overzealous. In fact, no. It is the commander and those taking out the bumblebees that decided, yeah, we're going to get a little bit lost. So a little bit of a waste of bumblebees there, although not, you know, not too much of a problem. At this point, Flared Newt, I would really recommend using intel to go and see whether the unit compositions of 400 babies actually are, because they are wasting production on spinners and things, rather than, you know, instead of producing these spinners, they could be producing the tier 1 assault bots. I can't quite recall what they actually are called. I'll have to have a look here, see if there are actually any there. Yes, scampers, there we go. So rather than producing spinners, you could be producing scampers, which will actually do more damage than spinners to this ant army, which is doing as I suggested, which is going to swerve down and try and flank this econ field. So that's going to be interesting to see how that goes, although this defensive front down here to the south is being produced by Flared Newt, because they did see the Air Force around here, as we saw, because they shot them down, and so Flared Newt correctly assumed that 400 babies would now try and attack down here because of its much weaker defensive infrastructure. What we don't want to see though from 400 babies is this sort of single fileness. I'd suggest maybe waiting around here for everything to regroup and then going in as bulk, rather than, you know, it's easier to defend against, you know, if you're in a zombie apocalypse, it's easier to defend against one zombie at a time rather than a horde of 20. You know, all coming at you at once, if you get my meaning. And that's in effect what single file does in RTS, is it makes it easier on your opponents because they're taking less damage per second and you're taking more damage per second because of focus fire abilities and all of this. We can see the assault beginning now, using the ranges to their advantage here, and the fact that anti-air towers aren't particularly brilliant against land units, and hummingbirds cannot attack ground. That is a misfortune, and apparently ants can attack hummingbirds, which is also going to be interesting to see. The point defense cannot hold up against that. We're probably going to see the bot army trying to skitter down all the way very rapidly. I mean, this is the advantage of bots. They have an incredibly fast movement speed comparative to ants, although we do have a constant stream of ants and even some bumblebees to support them now, but the bumblebees will be taken out by the spinners, which are still present in this army. In fact, it'll be actually, this is what I mean by single file, it's a lot easier to take them out, although, as I say, Tier 2 bots are more than a match for ants, so we will see these ants easily countered. And at this point I would really suggest that 400 babies start producing Tier 2 levelers, or even shellers at this point, to try and take out these bots. Levelers ideally, although that'll be interesting. Or was it all a ruse while they do a two-pronged attack? Because this is an interesting strategy being developed by 400 babies here. I mean, you do have 6 advanced bot, even 7 actually, my mistake. 7 advanced bot factories here, which is going to produce a lot of bots very rapidly. So 400 babies is starting to fall behind on the unit production tab, especially in as far as actual countering ability is concerned, because as I say, ants are less than a match for Tier 2 bots such as slammers and stompers. In fact, they're going to move back down again. Because radar, I believe, somewhere has been built. Radar has been built somewhere, which will enable people to see, there's an army coming up from the south. Taking that out, you want to do that and then retreat before this bot army gets down to you, otherwise you're just wasting more ants. Retreat now before you go in too deep. You really don't want to go in too deep there. It's really not going to be nice for you. Those ants are going to get taken out by only doing a minimal amount of 2 energy facilities worth of damage. Again, these ants are going to sort of just sit there. I mean, what you could do at this point, either team, I guess, is maybe produce a staging facility halfway between to reduce the travel distance between the bases, and whoever would take that advantage would get a little bit of an upper hand in terms of, you know, a second attack ability. And what? We've got a small patch of grass and forestry. Somewhat interesting. And reasonably out of place. Other than that, lots of bots here. Even, you know, numbers are about even with the ants, although strength-wise and stats-wise, far superior at this point. We do have some econ buildings being produced here by 400 babies, and even some advanced vehicle factories starting to produce these levelers. And if they can get these out quick enough, they can maybe start to repel this bot assault, but I don't think they'll get enough out to defeat all of these as they're coming down. I mean, they will see that army there with that ant, but there's no way I can find at the moment that is conceivable to actually produce enough to counter this as bot assault force as it is coming at the moment. I mean, these ants can slow them down, certainly, if they go in and bulk and start focus firing, but they really need to focus all of the fabricators on this advanced bot factory rather than producing this econ right now. I mean, you have got to prioritize at times like this, and the moment that metal goes up, they really do want to prioritize. But these bots are going to instead swerve up north and around these mountains to cut down and back in, because this hummingbird does detect that things are a little bit weaker up here. And in fact, I think 400 Baby senses what is about to happen and is getting his commander out of the danger zone right now. And this is what I mean about being able to mass produce. As I've said in my other ones, if you have more factories and a greater ability to mass produce, after the first clash you're going to be able to rebuild and regroup a lot quicker for the second one and come out even better, and the advantage is compounded and compounded and compounded over time and over time. And this is exactly what is happening now, because as you saw over by Flared Newt's advanced bot factories, all of these are ready for a second big assault, which if this one doesn't work, which I highly doubt that it won't, I mean, you know, it's got a high probability of succeeding, especially with T2 slammers right here, just going to walk through this base as though, you know, so it's custard, I guess. But the next armies can come up and support this lot, and because now 400 Babies almost has no way of building enough to even think of countering, the effect is going to get compounded over time, and it'll become a game of cat and mouse. We might even see a GG and a game concession. In fact, the ants did manage to repel those, and it is now time really for 400 Babies to really get their econ production back up, rather than going for something naval. because I don't believe Naval has a... Well, it has range, I guess, on these factories, but they're not going to get enough going in time, and that is a worrying amount of slammers that are probably about to descend on 400 Baby's base, and probably actually obliterate it from the surface of this planet. And while we wait for this to happen, and while we see units being sort of put in various different positions, what I will say is something recently I read on the forums from, not even the, well, the forums and the website of Planetary Annihilation, is that soon they will have support for control of multiple solar bodies. So for instance, now you can only play on a planet, and I think soon in one of the new patch updates, not too distant from now, we will start to see rocket facilities to be able to go and colonize things such as moons and other planets and other asteroids as well. Whether we will have kinetic energy weapons right now, I highly doubt, highly doubt, because of balance issues and all of the other things involved in kinetic energy weapons, such as, you know, area of effect damage, the amount of area that will able to be built on afterwards. You know, there's a heck of a lot of coding involved in that, and a recent interview with the developer said they didn't even know what was going to happen, and this is the only decent army advance that's left, and it is completely, you know, cut down by these slammers. I have to say, I haven't seen bots used all that much in recent games, and I have to say this is the most interesting use, well, I say interesting, and most powerful use of bots I've seen, because, you know, most people think when you compare bots to vehicles that bots are going to be weak as heck. I mean, they do look it, if I'm honest. Like, you know, the unit designs do look incredibly weak, but they pack a heck of a punch. Beautiful modesty on the part of Flared Newt. Absolutely beautiful. But here we go. The final assault on this base is going to really cripple 400 Baby's economy. And in fact, Flared Newt has disconnected. What's going on? Flared Newt has disconnected. Their name is greyed out. What's it? And SWAT Messiah. SWAT Messiah is also disconnected. We only have 400 Babies in connection. If 400 Babies can actually... if they can use this to their advantage, they can really build up again. What a drastic turn of events right there. If 400 Babies can really be clever and quick about this, they can really get some stuff done. There is an ability to reconnect with the game, so hopefully Flared Newt will utilise that, unless something has come up and they have had to leave permanently from this game, which is going to be sad to see, because, you know, they were on a winning streak. So we'll just have to see what happens with Flared Newt. I mean, this is one of the things with shoutcasting and alpha, you do get a lot of disconnects, and you have to pick which ones you upload carefully. And I think I will upload this one, despite what the ending might be, because it has been, you know, pretty intense, to say the least. I wonder whether Flared Newt will reconnect. We shall see. What I'll do is I'll probably cut the recording here. No, I won't. I was going to say I'll cut the recording until Flared Newt reconnects, and Flared Newt has reconnected. So, no need to cut the recording until Flared Newt reconnects, because he has. So he's going to retain control of his, well, or her, depending. I'm not even sure. Probably his. Bot army. Oh, why do I say? Yeah, anyway. So, yeah. I think this is a cleanup operation now. The bots are once again mobile. And there's a giant crevasse there, which not even I noticed. I mean, I should have done. I thought it was just a shadow being cast by a mountain or something, or even a hill. But in fact, it is a crevasse. I mean, this is one of the things with crevasses at the moment. I mean, alpha is alpha, but water just stops right there. So that ought to be interesting. I think one of the reasons that big vehicles and bots can go underwater at the moment is exactly because of this. You know, water is in effect a 2D plane rather than a body. Which has volume. I can't really ghost, I'm afraid. What is Flared Newt going down for? Are they going down and around the crevasses to see what's going on? I'm a little confused now. But the advanced bot factories are continuing to churn out bots. So at this point, you know, even if 400 babies can do something, which I highly doubt given the time that they have to do it in and the volume of units that they have to try and destroy and counter, there isn't a whole bunch they can actually do. I mean, yeah, you can defend, but no, even Troy fell in the end, so... And no offense to 400 babies, but at this point the base isn't particularly up to Troy's standards, so it'll probably fall a lot quicker. Sorry, I always make really dodgy analogies. It's something I really do a lot. So if I continue to do that, please let me know and give me a cyber slap in the comments, and I will graciously accept said cyber slap and will remove any dubious analogies from the future. Interesting that we have a Firefly having a little swim here. I'm not sure whether they just wanted to refresh or getting some exercise, but they do just seem to be sort of sitting still underwater, which is legit. Scampers, protect me. T2, T1 bots against probably in excess of 30 T2 bots. That's going to end well. In fact, that crevasse goes all the way to the sea there, so they're going to actually have to walk in on the water a little bit and back out, and then in and again and back out. And wow! Oh boom! The commander was sniped by those bots. Oh wow! I missed that completely. Oh wow! Let's review the game there and just see how things were ended up. That was that was quite a turn of events there. Wonder if anyone's still reviewing the game. Hopefully I'll get this uploaded very soon, but we'll have to see, because I do have other uploads going up at the same time. For instance, Walking Dead and Amnesia and other things I have at the moment. Again, we'll have to see what happens, but that was something of an intense game until all the bots started rolling out of Flared Newt space, at which point it almost became delaying the inevitable on the part of 400 babies. But Swap Messiah really in an unfortunate position right between the two bases. Yeah, I mean, commiserations to Swap Messiah. I mean, I really feel for that position right between these two, especially with an Ant Rush on one side and a Scamper Rush on the other. It's really unfortunate. Other than that, I can't really say anything more for this game. So yes, I will disconnect now, I believe. Main menu. I'll click that and about now. So let's wrap this up, and I will say thank you very much for watching. Do stick around for a lot more Planetary Annihilation content coming to you very soon. Don't forget to subscribe, because that way you don't even need to go looking for it. It comes straight to your feed. And finally, stick around, leave a comment, ask questions, any of that. I will be doing update logs and all of this when new builds come out, as and when they do come out. Although I will have to say, this weekend Saturday through Sunday evening I am away, so any further updates that come out over that time I will cover Sunday evening and get them to you either Sunday evening or Monday morning, depending on your time zone and my upload speeds and upload and record times, etc, etc, etc. Other than that, thank you again for watching, stick around and have a nice day.